Thank you to LaborFirst for sponsoring today's show of Better Bad Ideas. Let's get into it. I'm Sean O'Brien, General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Put your helmets on, buckle your chin straps. It's a full contact sport.
We're going to find out who has a better bad idea. So thank you very much. Today we got some great guests, Twigg and Jenkins, who have their own podcast, domiciled out of the same studio. Is this a better bad idea collaborating like this? Or are we gonna get into like a little power struggle about whose studio this actually is?
Right? A little bit of both, maybe.
Well, I think you guys get seniority, right?
Well, I know, but you're probably the better negotiator.
No way.
This is true.
Not really. So you guys worked at the White House. Were you friends prior to your assignments at the White House? And you worked under the Obama administration, correct?
We did. Carri Twigg hated me. Let's just be real.
So he was at the White House before me.
What were you, like a perv or something?
He shouts.
No, I'm just loud.
We
He's
shared
just
an
very
office, and the office was really narrow, so I had to sit in front of him. And so he was just shouting on the phone all day long. And he had the celebrity portfolio, so like celebrities and artists and creatives and so on. So he's literally on the phone with Angelina Jolie, and I'm getting screamed at about Taft-Hartley. Because I was doing all the labor unions.
More,
and it was
more
like,
interesting. Taft-Hartley's more interesting.
It was
Way
more
more
interesting.
interesting. I agree
But
with
it
that.
was at the time, it was like during ACA and that whole era. So he was like talking about the French state dinner. And I was, getting reamed by the carpenters.
Was there a little jealousy because, he's dealing with lifestyles of rich and famous and you're with working stuffs like us?
No, never.
No?
Never. I always loved having the labor portfolio. And it always felt like way more substantive. It was like Brad's like doing whatever.
This is true. It only got important when we had to sell healthcare because we needed these celebrities to actually get
That
people.
was probably one of the most controversial issues through the whole Obama administration.
Oh, yeah.
Affordable Care Act, which continues to be attacked and criticized. Seems like every administration.
Yeah. But, we made up. We became real friends.
I met his wife.
That was a huge thing.
Who was incredibly impressive.
This
Talk
is
about
true.
punching above your weight.
This is true.
And so I was like, all right, if she would marry you, then
You must be okay.
you're worth a second look. And then we became buds and like have stuck together like glue ever since.
Well, you were probably like, who is this animal married to?
Yeah.
This is going to say
Exactly.
it all.
And his wife came in with their young daughter at the time. Sadie was maybe like, she was crawling. She was like 18 months, 2 years old. And I chit chat with Marina and I was just like, oh my God, you're a legend. Like you're brilliant. She's funny. She's gorgeous. And I was just like, how?
So
What's happening?
My girlfriend, people say the same thing. We grew up, I played football with her brothers. She's about 5 or 6 years younger than I am. Stunningly beautiful, very successful. And we reconnected like 2 years ago. And, and she travels with me a lot. It's fortunate that she can do that. And people look at me and I know what they're thinking. They're like, how the hell did this happen? And I just tell people, she's got glaucoma.
Yeah, there you go.
She clearly cannot see. So what was your path to working in the Obama administration? I guess we'll start with Carri first. And were you always involved in politics? Did you want to work in politics?
I was. My mom's a social worker. And when I was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9, I grew up in Ohio. Family's been in Ohio for a long time, at least on my mom's side. And my dad's an immigrant from the Caribbean. And I was 8 or 9. I asked my mom what government is. And she told me it's old men sitting in a room deciding how free you are. And I was like, wait a second, what? Because that's not what they teach you at school, right? So the home of the free, land of the brave. You can do anything you want. Everyone has a decision. Everyone participates, blah, blah, blah.
They lie.
Yeah. And it was that classic thing. I'm the youngest of 3. My brother's lighting something on fire. My sister's crying. Like she's burning around, dropping us off from one thing to another. Plus had like kids from her social work in the car. Like it was just chaos at some point. And so she just sort of rattled off this answer. It wasn't as though it was this like profound moment of philosophy. She just like told me the raw, unvarnished truth of a tired mom. And
frustrated,
it just
tired,
blew my mind,
And how old are you at this point in time?
Like 8. And so then I just became the kid who was obsessed with government. I knew all my elected officials, started working on campaigns, made a deal I went to Ohio State for school, made a deal. I wanted to come to American, but it's too expensive. And so it was in Ohio and just started got to know everyone. Then this is like the Ted Strickland era.
Right.
So they started working for Ted for a long time. And as you know, there's there's so many labor presidents that come out of Ohio. So whether it was, Lee Saunders or, the guys out of AFSCME like Tim Berga and so many others were these guys that were running the state when I was coming up.
And you had the Ohio Conference of Teamsters, which controversy. Upon controversy.
Upon
back in
controversy.
Those days.
Their building was next door to the one I worked in for
All
years.
good guys, though. All good guys.
Yeah, everyone was great. I mean, foibles from time to time.
All good guys, and I say that because there weren't many women
Yeah.
prevalent in the Ohio Teamster world. There was one that she worked with, Les Singer. She later on became a vice president of the general executive board. I think she was like the second woman to ever sit on it.
Amazing.
Out of Ohio, yeah.
The rumor back in my day was that the Youngstown Teamsters you could still order a hit out of the Youngstown Teamsters.
They meant like off of, what was that music producing? Napster. You could order a hit off of Napster.
There you go.
Like a hit
exactly.
song.
Yeah. But so this was all like the Jim Trafficant era. So I was running around Ohio working for elected officials, doing all sorts of stuff. Then Barack Obama sort of arrives and, rises. Ohio was very much a Hillary Clinton state. A lot of the power brokers had lined up behind Hillary Clinton. I basically asked permission of Governor Strickland if I could leave his office to go work for Barack Obama. And he was like, oh, sweetheart.
Was Strickland, if I correct my memory, was he supporting Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, very close to the
That had to be a
Clintons.
tough conversation for you.
Yeah. And they were all very, very good to me. I was very much the hometown kid,
Right.
And I'd been working for the governor since I was 19. I was just, and so he was like, sure, but you'll always have a place when it's time to come back, because the confidence that he would win the primary was so low. And I actually did end up going back. I was, worked on the campaign for Obama in Ohio, and then did go back to work for the governor for another cycle, and then went to the White House.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't trending popular-wise in the polls. And I remember Chicago Teamsters backed him right away. And I just remember people, especially, coming out of 9/11, he was getting criticized because of his name, Obama bin Laden, they were calling him. And then, there's no way a person of color is ever going to be president of the United States and all this stuff. So there was a lot of hills to climb, and you took a complete leap of faith on that one.
Yeah. Well, it was 23 or whatever. But also, my father's black, my mother's white, grew up in a pretty white town. And when he won Iowa, I don't know, I think there's something, without getting too deep or too philosophical, I think there's something about black people who grew up really closely involved with white people that allows them to become really legible. So all this sort of white people will never vote for Barack Obama. I was like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. And then he
was probably the whitest black guy in the race.
But he's legible, right?
Exactly.
He doesn't...
Yeah. Very likable. I was telling Jenkins the first time I met him, it was at a private fundraiser in Newton, Mass. A friend of mine who used to be a doctor had him at his house. And he called me up, and I was probably, I don't know, I took over the Teamsters in Boston in 2005. So this was probably 2008 or 9. And I remember going to his house with 100 people.
Yeah.
And I was starstruck. I mean, the guy was so charismatic. He was so likable and approachable more than anything. I mean, growing up in our era, I'm sure I'm older than you. I'm in my, 53 years old. You always looked at presidents as you're never going to talk to them. You're never going to see them.
Yeah.
And they're rigid. This guy was charismatic. I mean, hard guy not to like.
Yeah. Yeah, and he felt familiar, and so you could pop up in a grandma's house in Iowa, and they'd be like, "Oh, you remind me of so and so that I already know and love." And so, I was really bullish about his ability to win the primary really early. But so a very kind of typical campaign rat kid.
So how does he find you? I mean, there's a million people on campaigns volunteering. Why you? Is it because you got wild hair and it's noticeable?
100%.
No one notices bald guys. Right?
You guys had your time. You had your time in the sun. I think it was a combination of things. I think it was the fact that, and Brad can speak to this too, because the Obama campaign were the kids who were willing to take a risk, who didn't believe the conventional wisdom for the most part. It's not true across the board, of course. You had very few people in Obama land that had institutional knowledge. So by the time I actually started working for the president in the White House, I'd worked for a state party for many years. I'd worked for a sitting governor. I'd run gubernatorial campaigns or been a political director. I'd worked for the DNC. I was an institutionalist. I could pick up the phone and call someone at a labor union and like credibly get an answer or get something done.
Right.
And there weren't a ton of people who had chops like that in the Obama world. And so the Aaron Pickrell and Governor Strickland actually gave me that advice. They were like, Carri, if you go to DC right now, because the minute he won, I wanted to go to DC. He was like, stay in Ohio for like 18 months and you will be able to distinguish yourself from the tens of thousands of kids who have the exact same resume, who look just like you, who want to be a part of this thing. Like, it's still going to be around. You're going to have time.
Well, I think it's great advice because think about it. You know, you go somewhere right off the bat, and, you know, we all know when you take over a new administration, whether it's in government or in an institution like mine, the Teamsters Union, everybody wants a jockey for position.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's going to be a lot of competitiveness, but not so much qualifications to actually do the job. So you actually get a nice snapshot of what everybody else has done wrong that didn't last, and you can come in and you know, pounce on the opportunity, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And so by the time I was actually in the White House and in that building, you know, don't get me wrong, there's incredibly brilliant people who were very very, very capable, but I had an additional set of levers I could pull and people I could call and things I could do. And in the Obama world, there were not many people who had any relationships with labor.
Well, some people are very book smart in life, but, you know, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but world dumb when it comes to, you can have a master's degree from Harvard University, but if you don't know the right person to call or the right lever to pull, you're not going to get any results anyways.
Yeah. Or even just like the approach. So somebody that I was close to, it was Tim Waters, who at the time was a political director of the Steelworkers. And he was like, hey, on your first, I was like, I'm about to start at the White House doing this job. And he's like, if I could tell you anything, go see the labor presidents. Don't call them to come see you. And so I spent my first like month at the White House going to every single headquarters, calling everybody on the phone, introducing myself. And so many of them told me I was the first White House staffer to come to them as an initial thing. And I was like, of course, you know, I want to introduce myself. I'm young. You know, you've been doing this for a really long time as a show of like respect. And they're just like, yeah, we're not used to that from these guys. And that bought me so much goodwill. It's like really basic stuff that if you've been doing politics for any duration of time, you should learn that lesson and have that lesson.
Well, I think there's a lot more credibility when you're standing face to face with someone and you're actually talking to them. You can look them in the eye. You can actually, especially like coming from Boston, we're always skeptical of everybody. But when you're face to face with someone, you get a great read on someone, and you can, you know, formulate an opinion pretty quick whether someone's legitimate or they're full of shit.
Yeah, totally.
So what's your rise to the White House?
The exact opposite is Carri Twigg.
You knew someone and they just hooked
Nepo
up.
baby.
No, exact opposite, meaning I had never been. So I grew up in Jersey.
What part of New Jersey?
Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay, tough area.
Pretty tough area. My dad's Black, my mom's Korean, Republicans, Trump voters. Grew up in a pretty like Italian American neighborhood. And my story is the opposite of Twigg.
Your parents still Trumpers?
Say that again?
Your parents still Trumpers?
Oh
yeah. Bigger Trumpers than ever.
Oh my
Bigger
God,
Trumpers
that must be
the worse.
interesting.
The worse it gets. The
you know, my mother's
loyal
77 years old. She's my most favorite person in the world. She's mad at me right now, but she'll get over it. So she was a lifelong Democrat, Kennedy Democrat, like through and through, just like most people from Boston were.
Sure.
And the last 5 years, she's Fox News, Donald Trump.
That's how they got my parents, Fox News.
Yeah.
But Twigg worked in politics. I had never worked in politics. I had like a Forrest Gump version of life. Like my first job out of school was at a law firm. I was like a legal assistant, but then one of my clients was a bank. So then I got a job on a trading desk.
Did you want to be a lawyer or did you want to be a stockbroker?
I just wanted.
Where did you go to college?
I went to University of Virginia.
Okay.
I honestly just wanted to live in New York and date cute girls and like have a life. Like I didn't have big dreams. I just wanted a life in New York City. Met my wife at a law firm. She had a trajectory. She went to Stanford Law School. She went to Princeton. Whereas I was just kind of like figuring it out.
You know
like,
what I mean?
mean?
All right, this is going to be good. I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really have figured this out. But I kept kind of getting lucked into really great jobs. I worked on the trading desk at JP Morgan. Then I worked at a hedge fund. I was an English major, by the way. So I knew shit about finance. So if you want to track,
I don't know why they didn't make you like director or treasurer.
Exactly. If you want to track why the economy crashed, just look at my career. Like idiots like myself were working at hedge funds. Like they were just hiring anyone. And then Barack Obama started running in 2007. Mm-hmm. Marina, we just moved to California. Marina was at Stanford Law School. And we just started going to these Obama, they're called Camp Obama, and these Obama volunteer things. And I just drank the Kool-Aid. I just really...
What was that discussion like? I mean, because your parents are, probably like, hey, this kid finally hit the lottery.
Exactly.
We don't have to worry about him anymore.
Yep.
He's got a great partner, trajectory. They're going to do very well, which is basically what Republicans were back in the day. They were doing well. They were about wealth.
Yep.
Where Democrats like us were about, hey, look, let's try and get 40 hours this week, and if we can't, let's go hustle somewhere else.
Exactly.
Your parents, you come home and say, I'm supporting Barack Obama.
They had like an intervention. I'm not kidding.
This story.
They like my dad and mom.
How old are your parents?
They're in their like late 60s. So they're
young.
Closer to my age.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s. They were really worried about me. Like they were like, they thought I like joined a cult. They're like,
say the same
why
thing.
would you quit your job, leave your wife? Because my wife was in California, so I had to move to Chicago for the campaign. So I just started volunteering. And, at that time, it was like a rocket ship. If you're volunteering early, I had turf, I had field offices. I'm like, we're knocking on doors, we're doing volunteer recruitment. So by the time Obama wraps the nomination, I get invited to Chicago to work on the campaign headquarters. And my dad literally called me. He was like, have you lost your mind? Like, what are you doing with your life? You've got a great life. And I honestly was like, I don't know. I just really like this Barack Obama guy. And I feel like this is a moment where, as much as I love my work making money for billionaires, I don't feel fulfilled. And the greatest thing of all time, so I make the decision to leave this firm called Farallon, which is a hedge fund, specialized in, at the time, collateralized debt obligations.
So they're
Oh, wow.
They're a Ponzi scheme.
Well, not the whole firm, but that
you're doing CDOs at a hedge
fund.
Oh
yeah.
God.
I end up leaving.
You look like a Wolf of Wall Street.
You're
type.
right.
I appreciate you. Appreciate that. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. So I end up leaving the firm in July to move to Chicago. The Lehman crash is like a month later. The group that I was working for, the trading desk I was working for,
that was the Big Short, right?
It's the Big Short.
Yeah.
Half the team by the end of the year don't have jobs. So like all my friends in finance were like, Jenkins just had the greatest trade of all time, because I left right before the crash. And then I ended up working at the White House. And so there was just something, the other thing about it too, Marina reminds me that like I would come home and she'd be like, how's your day? And I'm like, I don't think this is going to last much longer. Like it didn't feel right. Like the amount of money that we were making for these, buy side, sell side.
Well, the amount of money you're making off of people and the victims as a result of it.
All bullshit. It was
awful.
all bullshit.
It was awful.
This episode is brought to you by LaborFirst, the leader in healthcare navigation and advocacy for plan sponsors, union members, and retirees. Navigating healthcare isn't easy, especially when it comes to Medicare, and it shouldn't fall on our retirees' shoulders alone. That's where LaborFirst comes in. They work one-on-one with members to help them understand their benefits, resolve issues, and get the care they've earned. From answering tough questions to fixing billing problems, LaborFirst is in your corner every step of the way. No call centers, no runaround, just healthcare advocates who care. LaborFirst was founded by a proud Teamster son and grandson. For over 60 years, his father and grandfather led Teamsters Local 837, now Local 107 in Philadelphia with pride, purpose, and grit. That same union spirit runs through everything LaborFirst does today. Now, hundreds of union health plans trust LaborFirst as a true partner, delivering results, supporting members and retirees, and never forgetting who they're working for. When it comes to protecting what your members have earned, LaborFirst stands with you. Please visit LaborFirst.com to learn more. That's LaborFirst.com.
This episode is brought to you by Catches Law Group, proud advocates for injured workers and their families since 1986. If you've been hurt on the job, navigating the workers' comp system can feel like fighting an uphill battle. That's where Catches Law comes in. They've recovered over $3 billion for hardworking people just like you, and they don't back down when your rights are on the line. I know personally, I have watched Catches Law fight tirelessly on behalf of injured workers. They fight to make certain that they get their pay that they deserved, but also the justice from giving up so much for these employers who want to throw hardworking people away when they get injured. That's Catches Law, KECHES law.com.
I mean, I can remember the mortgage crisis. I was fortunate. I went to work in the union very early, 18 years old.
Yeah.
I bought my first multifamily house at 20. And you know, real estate kind of fascinated me a little bit. And I can remember, you know, this is early 90s, then to mid 90s, and then 2000. You know, the mortgage rates were at an all-time low, like 2003, 4, if I remember correctly. And I just remember being able to call my mortgage company. I think at the time it was Countrywide, and I had a rep, and I'm like, hey, I need $50,000 in equity out of one of my houses because I want to buy another one. There was no paperwork. There was no deep dive. It was like, yeah, no problem. And then I'm like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Not make any sense.
And I knew friends that I grew up with that were working that didn't have $2 to their bank account, and they're buying these $500,000 houses. Under this whole premise of if you make $50,000 a year, you can afford a $300,000 house, which is bullshit. And it was just, I watched so many of my friends, I watched so many people I know get caught in that whole scam and the foreclosure stuff. Some of them still aren't right today because of it.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I moved to Chicago, worked on the campaign. I actually didn't think we were going to win.
Now, have you ever met Obama at this point in your time?
At that point, by the time I moved to Chicago, I met him in San Francisco at an event because all the sort of organizers all got to meet him. So I met him very briefly, but it wasn't until I started working at the White House that I actually like met him and got to work with him.
And you're hired at the White House to do what?
So at the time, Twigg's right. One of my portfolios.
Who's there first, Twigg or you?
I was there first. My main portfolio when I started.
Oh yeah, because you waited the 18 months.
She waited. Was progressives was my main portfolio, which sort of meant.
What do progressives mean today compared to yesterday?
Exactly. Well, back then it meant moveon.org. It meant, what was McKibben's group? Like 350.org. It meant like organizations that had a shit ton of people that they can reach. It wasn't like leftists. It wasn't like democratic socialists. It was like large organizations that could reach a lot of people. So like a lot of like youth groups. And so I would run this thing called Common Purpose Project, where every week all of the groups, there'd be like 80 groups would be represented. They'd go to the Capitol Hilton on 16th and K, Tuesday at 7:00. And my job was to bring a senior White House staffer and someone from comms, and all of these groups would just give him shit. They would just give him hell. Like, why aren't you doing the X, Y, or Z?
So you were causing a little bit of the controversy.
Well, my job was to like listen. My job was honestly, there needed to be like a release valve for all these organizations. I started at a time when it was like right after the midterms.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got our asses kicked with midterms. We had to get everyone back on board before the reelect. And speaking of what Carri was just saying, the one good thing that we did in the Obama years was we met with these
one
people.
good thing?
I know.
One of the good things. But we actually met with these folks every single day, every single week.
Yeah,
right?
that's something that it's so far out of the realm of actually meeting with people, having discussions,
Yes.
hearing their grievances, and then trying to find solutions to problems. Isn't that what you're supposed to be doing?
It really feels like basic.
It's
politics
basic shit.
101.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not doing that, I'm not sure you're doing what the thing is, you know? It's
Basic
like
shit.
comedy. It's like if you're not laughing, I don't know that it's comedy.
Exactly. But then the other part of portfolio was, they called it celebrities, but it was like, you know, artists, musicians.
Any celebrities recently in the news you had to deal with?
I mean, we met with everyone at the time. The interesting thing is the ones that
I'm
are
not going to ask about P. Diddy.
off the reservation. Oh, I never met Diddy.
All right. I'll show you didn't.
I never met Diddy. I never met Diddy. But Diddy actually,
He didn't do a lot.
we never invited Diddy to the White House, I don't think. I have to go back through the White House.
That's a
records.
good thing now,
It's a
isn't
good
it?
thing. It's a good thing.
The first lady said something on her podcast recently that she met him at a campaign event and was like, I don't like him. And she might have.
We stayed away from Diddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We stayed away from Diddy. But we had Rihanna, we had Beyonce, we had all those guys.
So you were
Not Diddy.
responsible for coordinated events with them or lining them up to support
Yes.
Barack's
So
agenda?
the social office did all,
Which
like,
makes
the
sense. I mean,
events.
when you think about it, you know, it makes sense because Obama was a pretty charismatic. You looked at him at the time, I think he was 48 years old,
Yeah.
very hip
Yeah.
person.
he was
and,
cool.
and you think about the artist and the nature of Hollywood back then. I mean, it was kind of similar personality. So it would make sense for people that popular like Rihanna or whoever else to embrace an agenda of Obama, even whether it was right or wrong. But that would help promote a lot of
100%.
political
Yeah,
issues.
I mean, don't forget that was the big knock. John McCain's big knock on Barack Obama was like, "Do you really want a celebrity president?"
Right. Little did he know.
Like back in the day, the idea of being a celebrity and being president felt like they were in direct
But
conflict
Ronald
with
Reagan
one
was
another.
a celebrity and a
Exactly.
president.
Right?
Well, Donald Trump
Absolutely.
is, I feel like Donald Trump is the celebrity president.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Like,
He has brought it to its apex.
But you're right. I mean, the cool thing about my job was, you know, the part of the White House that did events. So, you know, someone like Rihanna or John Legend would perform. And then Valerie Jarrett, who's my boss, my job was to get those people from the East Wing over to the West Wing. And we'd actually talk to them about, you met Rihanna, because Rihanna and Twigg are both Barbadian.
Bayesian.
Bayesian.
Sure. Yeah.
What is it?
From Barbados.
Barbados?
Yeah.
So Rihanna's doing all this work in Barbados. So we would try to figure out, all right, this person has a huge audience.
Your popularity must have been soaring at the White House.
Yeah. It was really annoying for Carri. It was also really annoying for my wife because I would come home and she was a lawyer, you know, doing doc review. And she's like, "What did you do all day?" And I was like, "Well, I hung out with Rihanna for 8 hours."
Mm-hmm.
It was a great job.
But even in the White House, yeah, all the other staffers were like, "What does Brad do?"
Yeah, I know.
But it's all right.
So you're in the White House.
Yeah.
You're working there. Lo and behold,
Twigg shows up.
she comes in. She rolls in hot, right?
She
Coming in
does.
hot, right?
Completely unimpressed.
So
Completely unimpressed.
so how does she get domiciled to your office? And you must have been like, "What the hell is this?"
Well, she actually asked to move offices because
Yeah.
I was so loud.
I was like, "This isn't gonna work." And they were just like, "Carrie, do you think?"
When you first met him, did you like him?
No.
No.
I was like, he eats loud. He talks loud. He like, what is happening in here?
It's like a married couple.
Yeah, from the like 10 years in on day one. And
Did
so
you insult him? Did you insult him a little
probably, but very only through my silence.
No,
eye
and through
rolling.
your rolling of your eyes.
Yeah.
She would
I
like
have a
look
bad
back.
eye rolling habit.
bit? Were you like texting on your BlackBerry, like,
Probably.
"This kid sucks," and you
Yeah.
choose too loud and all that stuff?
Probably.
Yeah.
And so I did. I asked to move offices, and someone was like, "Do you think you're sharing an office because there's extra ones just like waiting for you to go in? Like, ma'am, have a seat." And I was just like, "Damn it."
We did
hate it
become
here.
really good friends, though.
Yeah.
The thing about Twigg that I love is that, to her point, I think there are a lot of people at the White House. You hit the nail on the head. A lot of people are there because of nepotism, because they know the right people, because their parents are donors, right? There's that class of people. Then there's a class of people like me who are just like youngish, just believers of Obama, and there's that. But there were not many people like Carri that actually knew her shit, that actually worked at the state level, had real relationships. And so I learned a lot from Carri, as you know. And the other part is you want a friend who keeps it real with you too, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want, if you're going to go off the rails, you want to be told, hey,
100%.
You're acting like an asshole.
Exactly.
Like, smarten up, and this is the way you should do it. Because I mean, I would assume that you learned baptism by fire, working on all those different campaigns and working for different politicians, and you got to see what works and doesn't work on a state level. And then you take it to a federal level. I mean, it's a different ball game. However, you know, the same predators and the same people that want to see you fail are in both the state and the federal government. So you knew a lot of the tricks of the trade that I'm sure you had to learn some hard lessons on.
Yeah, and I think also just like the temperament of there really was, for the true believers especially, they were like, how could anyone question Barack Obama? And it was like, allow me to count the ways. And I think a lot of the time, a lot of my role that I, in many ways, was punished for internally within the building was like, that sounds like bullshit to people. Okay. Like, first of all, Barack Obama did not invent this. Everything you're talking, like the snowflake model of organizing is the shop steward model. Like, these are things that existed before this guy. And it's not to take anything away from Barack Obama and his unbelievable achievement.
I think
but
the good thing about podcasts in this arena is that you can have these discussions and have frank discussions, but also not lose the fact that you worked for the President of the United States. You respect him. You like them, but I think people want to hear, like, what was it like working in the Obama administration? You know, there was, to your point, there was this, you know, Barack Obama's the man. Okay. Yeah. But is he the man? Was he the man? Did he do everything that he said he was going to do? He achieved a lot, but what didn't he achieve? You know, that's what I love to talk to people about all the time. You know, we're great. We're in the labor movement as well. We're great at this. We always want to talk about our victories. And I always tell my staff and our general executive board and leaders around the country, it's all well and good to talk about your victories. Let's talk about our losses. And let's talk about why. So you know, labor under Obama, I don't think we did as well as we should have done with labor. And it wasn't any fault of people like yourselves, because you were doing a ton of outreach. I just think that there was just a different agenda back then. And I tell people, like, you know, because I'm getting criticized because we took a no endorsement in this election. And we took. I hope we
can talk about.
We definitely will. And we took a no endorsement, obviously, because we got a constituency that we represent, and the majority of our constituency was voting Republican, not necessarily voting Trump. They were voting anti-Democrat because of, you know, the past issues that came up, and we didn't get anything. It's like I always tell people, well, look, under Obama, our biggest goal in labor, and you probably remember this, was the Employee Free Choice Act, which was basically the PRO Act in a different version. And we had a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, and a Democratic president. And I remember when Obama won, I was negotiating a contract with this union-busting law firm, Jackson Lewis, and we just organized a Dunkin' Donuts distribution facility. And through the organizing campaign, it was prior to the election, there were pricks that talk about notorious union busting and everything else. Fast forward, we win the election, and then Obama wins the election. And this lawyer asked to meet with me in North Station in Boston, right outside the Boston Garden. He says, well, you know, we're really willing and able to negotiate an agreement.
Sure.
And I'm like, what, would you get struck by lightning last night or something? Oh, no, we know it's going to change. You know, you're going to get the Employee Free Choice Act. And we never got it.
Unbelievable.
And ironically, that situation is they decertified us during these negotiations, because we would be going to the administration saying, hey, can you help us with this? What's it look like for the, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. We were kind of put on the back burner on that. And people forget that. People forget
Carri doesn't forget it.
No.
And I say people sometimes in labor because, you know, the last election, you know, and Joe Biden was a great president for union people. He didn't do everything that, you know, everybody wanted, but no president's going to do that. And his biggest accomplishment was fixing pensions, and we gave him credit. But the PRO Act, we heard about the PRO Act, the PRO Act, the PRO Act. that never went anywhere because it was too fat of a bill. And then halfway through the term, people were using that PRO Act. And when I say people, legislatures wanted to use that. Legislatures wanted to use that as a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, you look back and you say, Jesus, we had a great opportunity under Obama to get this thing done.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, none of these, there's no one answer to any of these issues, and it's always easier in hindsight to look back and obviously play Monday morning quarterback. But I think that Democrats, I think a handful of things, if I remember my experience accurately. One, it was, Rahm was the first chief of staff.
Yep.
So having one of the world's most vindictive human beings be your first chief of staff. So he was playing head counts of everyone who endorsed and everyone who didn't, everyone who gave them a hard time in 2007, 2008, and who didn't, whether you were a governor, because Ted Strickland was kept in the doghouse for years. Barack Obama, I remember, came to do, I think, an FOP event and did not invite the sitting Democratic governor in Ohio. And that was Rahm, right? That's
bad advice.
It is. But I think that really set relationships with labor back from the beginning, right? And it deprioritized things like the Employee Free Choice Act when there were so many other there were a lot of priorities on the board. And I think there were less sort of obvious foes and obvious vendettas to enact that allowed some issues to move to the front of that line. So I think that didn't help. I also think, and this is not an indictment. Well, it is an indictment. Who am I kidding? I think that also the labor movement had been poorly served by some of the leadership of the labor movement. I think I met with every single president of the AFL. I've met with everybody and had been watching what they were doing for years and years. And they often had not done enough to make the case to subsequent generations of Democratic electeds, the general public, about what a union is. I don't know if you lined up every Democratic member of Congress, they can actually explain to you what a union card is, why a union is important, and how they function. I'd be really shocked.
Well, there's probably one or two that are still there that can do that. Norcross out of New Jersey.
Sure.
I think he was an IBEW member. Steve Lynch, ironworker out of Boston. There may be a handful of others, but
you get what I mean? That.
Oh, I get exactly
enough.
what you mean. That's why we had such a disconnect in this election.
Yeah.
Because I think because someone had a D next to their name,
absolutely,
it was just assumed they were going to get not the union leadership support, because they got majority of that.
Of course, yeah.
But I think they thought they were going to get the rank and file support. Yeah. And, I think that's been progressively getting worse over the years.
Absolutely. It's progressively been getting worse across the board, right? You don't hemorrhage numbers among Black and Latino men if they've felt good, if they felt outreach to, if they've felt represented and reflected for the previous 20 years, right? We don't see the losses that we had in last election cycle if the demographics that make up the Big Tent party all felt like they had been getting the attention that they rightly deserved for carrying the Democratic Party on its back for generations, right? And so I think it's a multifaceted issue. And I remember having this conversation over and over again, both internally in the building and externally with unions themselves, of we're not exerting the due pressure on each other that we need. I need you. I actually would show up and go to the building trade sometime to be give me a really, really hard time so that I can go back and say, you gave me a really, really hard time.
Give me a beating publicly. So it may open some eyes on what we need to be doing.
That's right.
As a White House to serve these people that are going to vote for us and donate to us and promote our agenda.
Absolutely. And we think and I know I've heard you talk about this on your podcast, I think you had Marty on, thinking about these really high level appointments or high level DOL appointments.
Yeah.
I would go into meetings with the NEC, right? The National Economic Council in the White House and the West Wing. Not a single person in that room, aside from me, had ever worked an hourly wage, had ever worked in an industrial sector, had ever had a parent that had done that either. Like, they are generations removed from the vast majority of American workers. And so me trying to convince them that $50 a week makes or breaks a family is not something that, like, the best and the brightest has as, like, a part of their willingness or just, like, general reflexive understanding.
Right.
And so it's also about, like, whatever administration comes in next, like, pull a chair up to the personnel office, sit down and be like, I want someone in this office, this office, this office. It's like, yes, this labor secretary. Yes. Yes, the undersecretaries. Yes. And, like, who are the 15 other people across that are actually doing the policy implementing and filtering these decisions up? Because it was all really well-off kids, right? Yeah. And so over and over
don't
again,
forget, well-off kids probably that grew up or were born in the late or mid-'80s, right? And then you have Democratic Party, which Clinton runs, and he was another ray of hope, right, when he first ran.
Sure.
And then Labor embraced Bill Clinton,
Yep.
right,
NAFTA,
1992. Yep. And I remember I was working, I mean, I got in the union in 1990, very active, and I remember going to rallies against NAFTA, against CAFTA, against PNTR, all creating the demise for working people in America, factories going overseas, places, relocating to Mexico. So you have a lot of people that lost their job, that lost connection as well with working people as a result of those decisions and those policies that were made. So it makes sense to an extent that the people that are coming in to work in the Labor Department on the Obama administration have zero connection because they don't know anything about it, because there's no more labor. There's no more factories. There's no more. I mean, you look at Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio was probably one of the most bluest collared states in the nation, with the most amount of industry. And right now it's paralyzed.
Yeah.
It's red.
Yeah. One in 3 jobs, whether it was making paper for the catalogs, making rubber for the tires, like, it was, we were a manufacturing state. We're still one of the only states in the country where the majority of jobs are in manufacturing, but they are not unionized jobs. They are, like, the pay scale is lower than when I was a kid. I mean,
so I just had Vivek Ramaswamy on my podcast last week, which will be out, I think, next week, and we were talking about Ohio. Now, here's a billionaire, right?
Yeah,
sure.
Saying all the right things about labor, saying all the things right thing about working people, but I specifically was asking about Ohio. I'm like, Ohio produced steel. They were an auto industry. They were the Rust Belt. And is there an opportunity to get states like Ohio, Pennsylvania back on the map as manufacturing meccas of this country, providing opportunities, especially in light of these tariffs, which I don't understand a lot of these tariffs. What I do understand is that if they're going to bring work back to the United States and we're going to produce goods and services, they're going to provide good unionized jobs, why wouldn't we support that?
Yeah.
Right?
That's the big question.
But it's a huge question. But do we have the ability under these tariffs now, I guess, and just switching gears a little bit from where we were, as opposed to under the Obama administration and the Clinton administration, where it seemed like they didn't care about manufacturing in the United States. They didn't care about these bad trade deals. Is there a right answer for these tariffs under this current administration, in your opinion?
I'll be really interested to listen to your Ramaswamy episode.
You're a big fan. Not as big of a fan as your boy JD Vance, though, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, but look, we may not be you may not be
Disgraces
fans of
my home
people,
state.
Yeah.
but I think what has been lacking is conversations. To
I
see
love
what
it.
people
No, I love
stand.
that you have these guys on.
I got into it with Vivek.
Yeah.
Because he's pro labor, and then he says, "Well, the only union I really I'm not fond of is a teachers union." And I said, "Well, why would you say that?" He was like, "Well, I think they should be paid on merit." I'm like, "I disagree with that." I said, "Teachers, I went to public school. I went to Catholic school, I think, for 3 years out of my life, but I went to public school." And I said, "Have you had a conversation with the teachers?"
I know. Yeah.
And he says, "Well, no." I said, "Well, if you're going to want to be, part of this Republican
representing working people. You just can't pick and choose who you're gonna represent. I said, the teachers, my opinion, public schools, they were some of the most impressionable people I've met in my entire life.
Yeah.
Who I still think about a lot.
Yeah.
You know, even 53 years later, like they had significant impact. Now, it's like any other organization or any administration. You're always going to get people that, you know, skirt their obligations under their jobs. But my point to all this is, you know, people like Vivek, people like Josh Hawley, people like Roger Marshall, who normally we wouldn't be talking to, we're having conversations trying to get things done on a bipartisan platform. Is that something you would embrace or you encourage?
I don't dislike either Vivek Ramaswamy or JD Vance because of their politics. I dislike both of them because I think they're disingenuous assholes. Like, I don't believe.
Tell us how you really feel.
I don't believe a word that comes out of their mouths.
Yeah.
I don't think that they have a meaningful compass. I don't think that it's real. I think that they are opportunistic and that they will say whatever they have to say at any given moment to whoever they have to say.
But couldn't they say
to.
that about anybody? Couldn't they have said that about Clinton? Couldn't they have said that about Obama?
I'm not going to get into the Clinton of it, but like, but I actually think that whatever, you know, say what you want. There are all sorts of reasons to disagree with President Obama, but he wasn't changing his tune from room to room.
Right.
He was remarkably consistent.
Right.
He told you exactly what he thought, and he would tell you if he had changed his mind. And he could articulate and did articulate why and where that decision was coming from and draw from whatever experience he'd had, whether he was talking from someone else or from his own life. I have no problem. I'm a grown-up. I disagree with people all the time. I have no problem with that.
I disagree with myself in the mirror in the morning.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm a Gemini.
I probably argue with myself more in the mirror in the morning.
I love that you're doing it though, Sean. Honestly, I think that we were talking about this before we were recording, where it's a rare commodity these days, because I think what you're doing is a little different than Gavin. I feel like Twigg and I disagree on the Gav.
After we launched our podcast, I think you launched yours earlier.
Right.
We launched ours, I think, early 2025. This fool comes out and launches a podcast.
Well, again,
he's a Bradley Cooper wannabe.
A lot of it. Oh, I like that. But I feel like a lot of what Gav is doing, and I'll give him credit for, at the very least, he's trying some new shit. And I think Democrats need to be trying a lot of different things. So the fact that he's having conversations with people, to your point, we should be talking to everyone. I mean, my problem is the people that he's choosing to talk to, I don't think deserve any airtime. I don't think anyone's going to learn anything from Charlie Kirk. I don't think anyone's going to learn anything. But the folks that you're having on, and I've listened to a lot of it, you know, it's like people don't understand my perspective, which is my parents are Trump voters. I am constantly, almost on a daily basis, having to think about what I believe in and why. Because it's like, you know, exercising. Like, if you have preset views and no one challenges them, then you get lazy. And I think that Democrats love to talk to each other because we don't challenge our own ideas and our own thoughts. And so you having Vivek on is good because you challenged him, because he probably says that all the time. He probably says, oh yeah, I don't believe in the teacher unions. And you actually said, well, why? Tell me why.
Right.
But he's surrounded by a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, teacher union's bad. Teacher union's bad. What I think we have to start doing, we have no choice now because we got our asses kicked.
But why? Why did we get our asses kicked?
We got our asses kicked because I don't think that to Twigg's point, I don't think that we have been asked the hard questions by people that don't agree with us. And we're willing to actually look in the mirror and say, we have now become the party of the elites. We have fundamentally become the party of not the working class, the party of the well-connected, the party of
big
privilege,
big donors,
corporations, big donors, people who have influence. It's almost like we became the party of proximity to power and the party of the status quo. And it's so ironic that Trump, who is someone who is the opposite of a person who, like my parents, who are actual working class people, resonated with working class people, because Democrats, we just kind of lost. It's like when you look in the mirror, speaking of looking in the mirror, I don't think Democrats actually understood what they looked like to most people.
I thought
You know what
after
I mean?
this election, I was really hopeful that, because I had some conversations with some governors that were Democrats and some senators that were Democrats. And I took a lot of criticism because, I got invited to speak at the RNC. And after that, it was like this whole attitude shifted towards the Teamsters Union, towards Sean O'Brien, because how dare he go into a place he's not welcome and talk to people he don't know or give a speech or a message to people he doesn't know. That was probably the most uncomfortable thing I've ever had to do in my life, is speak at the RNC. But to your point, it's like, let's have these conversations in forums we're not comfortable in, talking about issues that aren't reflective of one party versus the other, but as a whole, like working people.
Well, I love that your speech.
Hold on, though.
Wait. One thing I will say, because we're going to move on. Your speech, it felt like a Twilight Zone moment. Like, we talked about it the day after, I think, on this
we both
podcast.
watched it.
And what felt so surreal about it was that your speech, I'm sure that the exact text of the speech you gave to the RNC, you would have given to the
I say that
Democratic
all the
convention.
time. I said if I was invited there, I would have gave the same speech.
And the fact that you had that crowd cheering.
Well, they were cheering at first.
Yeah.
And then it was like,
freaking-
and then when you start, then when you start, I was like this. I mean, the place is huge and there's a million things going on. And you're seeing like, hey, and then you say, and these corporate elitists are like,
yeah.
should I be clapping?
No,
Should I
that
be
was the
clapping?
part where you could see people's faces. They were like, oh shit, he's actually saying what we don't believe. And I fucking loved it. I thought it was so powerful, but then the other part of me was angry because there are millions of people watching, believing that what you were saying represented the Republican Party.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So
I think that was a calculated mistake not having me at the DNC, because I would have gave that same exact speech at the DNC, and it would have resonated, I think, probably more.
Oh, absolutely.
At the DNC.
Were you not invited at all?
I wasn't invited at all. And we actually, they asked, the Republicans asked us to speak because, forget the election.
Yeah.
When we first took over in office, I was frustrated from a local union perspective in Boston, and also on a regional level, because we were making all these investments blindly to people that we were just giving money to and not getting any results with a lot of Democrats. A lot of Democrats did a lot of good work for us and still do. But in my state and on a federal level, and I'm like, we've got to change the way we do things. Let's figure out, have conversations, meet with people we normally wouldn't, meaning Republicans and independents, and find out where they stand on our issues. And those are the people we're going to support. So when we came into office in 2022, we immediately started working with, meeting with Republicans that we think from states that we were well represented, where we have a huge constituency of our membership, saying, look, why are you going to support national right to work, or why are you supporting national right to work when 30,000 of our Teamster members live and work here? And we would have these conversations proving that right to work is bad for this country. And Josh Hawley, who was a big right to work person at one point in time, said, if this is not good for my people and your members, I don't support this anymore. And that was like significant to me. That was one of the first relationships we established with a sitting Republican senator, where we actually got results because of having conversations and pointing out accurate testimonials on how bad certain issues are. So we started doing this early on. So we were getting kind of recognized as an organization of, look, they're not just going to support Democrats. They're going to support people who support their members, who, by the way, are my constituents. So I think we started gaining some credibility, getting some things done on a federal level. So that's why we were invited to the RNC. And I remember we got invited. I called, I think it was Chuck Schumer called me about something. And I said, well, by the way, I've been invited to speak at the RNC. And there was like complete silence on the phone. And we gave like 500,000 or something, 550,000 to a Democratic super PAC. And I said, I hope I get the same opportunity at the DNC. Oh, you should go to the RNC. You should speak there. And then as soon as I finished, I was getting murdered on X by, the far left, the DSA. I was
incredible.
Chuck Schumer was putting some remarks out there and some other people. So it was like, all right, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And, I'm not picking a side either way, but I don't like this behavior. And then after the election, which we talked about earlier, after we got our asses handed to us,
yep.
I was actually optimistically hopeful going, this is going to be a great reset.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to smack people into line
yep.
and say, all right, something's wrong, something's broken. Let's go have conversations or let's reach out to the people. I mean, I would have, if I was, and again, this is just maybe, my ego, and I try not to have one, but if I was a Democrat who went all in, if I was a Democratic senator or whoever else, and I went all in attacking Sean O'Brien and the Teamsters Union or anybody else during the RNC and after the election, I would have reached out and said, hey, can I meet with you? I want to see you. Where do you think we went wrong?
Yes.
Why is 65% of your members supporting Republicans versus
right.
Democrats? And those conversations were few and far between.
It's insane.
I mean, here's the thing. And I would include Senator Schumer in my assessment. I think this takes us back a little bit, and then I want to say something about what you just said, which is I think that there are a lot of people in the political arena who are primarily driven by opportunism, and that is not an exclusively Republican affliction or MAGA affliction. And I don't like any of those people. I think that one of the major reasons why we lost is that for a long time, Democrats have been mealy-mouthed. We have been afraid of what our convictions are. We can't articulate them clearly. Say what you want about Donald Trump. He's an extraordinary communicator, and you at least are left with the impression that he meant what he said, even if he didn't. We know that he has reversed himself, that he said one thing and then 2 hours later said something else. But people don't feel like they are being lied to as he is speaking. And most of the time, you see it in numbers over and over and over again. People will watch Democrats on TV or they'll watch them give speeches and they'll be like, I don't believe a word that's coming out of that person's mouth. And it's because there isn't a consistency of conviction. And I think that that is a massive credibility issue that I personally respond to, but I also think that afflicts the party overall. And then to be perfectly honest, it's like, that conversation should have happened with you years ago.
Exactly. Because
it's not as though it's been a light switch with the Teamsters.
Yep.
When I was in the White House 10, 15 years ago, it was we were already losing Teamsters. We were losing ground in the building trades. We were losing ground with the laborers. We were losing ground with the carpenters were basically gone. Sorry. The carpenters had basically left. I mean, this has been happening for a generation of political cycles. And so the fact that conversation didn't happen, but it's like that classic dig the well before you're thirsty. The fact that you're not trying to solve these problems on the front end and we're waiting for catastrophe.
Yeah, we're definitely not a
infuriating.
proactive society when it comes to dealing with issues of what do people truly want? We wait till there's a reaction.
The fact that, to your point, we just got our asses kicked across the board. And there's all of this talk of we're going to do an autopsy. We're going to figure this out. We're going to spend tens of millions of dollars to figure out why we can't reach men. And I'm like, well, why don't you just call Sean? Why don't you just call, unions, that has been the organizing vehicle to reach men for a generation.
Multiple
generations. And so the fact that you weren't even invited to speak at the convention, right? I mean, these are all things that infuriate me.
But they weren't asking for advice. They were giving directives.
Exactly.
And I remember, and I think we talked about it earlier, and it's a great point because I think you're 100% right as far as this has been going on for a long time.
Yes.
It just came to a huge
head.
head.
You saw it.
Right? You actually witnessed it, right? But when the Biden campaign kicked off in December of 23, I was getting calls. Marty Walsh is a great friend of mine.
Yeah.
I love the guy. He was a great secretary. There's a guy that to your point, knew how to maneuver, right? Knew how
Real
to pick up
operator,
the phone,
yeah.
had contacts, both business and union. And he was a huge asset to the Biden administration when he was there. And look, I've got my criticisms of access during the Biden administration. I have my criticisms of, we didn't have the most positive dealings with the staff.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to navigate through. But I remember in 2023, December, Marty called me up. He goes, hey, building trades are going with Biden. I'm like, okay, great. And I love the building trades. I'm part of the building trades. Sean McGarvey's a great leader. And then he's like, SEIU's going with, no, maybe it was AFSCME or someone else. I'm like, look, we're not in a position to make an endorsement right now because, and I remember, and it wasn't a crystal ball, but I'm like, is this guy even going to make it through the election?
Yeah.
But more importantly, again, going back to when we took over as an organization, myself and my General Secretary Treasurer, Fred Zuckerman, fantastic partner in this, we made a pact that we were going to go into workplaces talking to rank and file members 3 to 4 days per week in 3 and 4 different states. And we've been doing this since 2022. Outside of listening to trials and tribulations our members face in the workplace, people were, for the first time I've witnessed members saying, don't waste our money on these Democrats that don't do shit for us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and we were hearing this rhetoric over and over again, whether we're in a UPS facility, United Airlines, or wherever we were. So when I got this call in 23, December, like, you have to go with them right away, and everybody starts firing these endorsements, I'm like, I have a constituency I have to represent.
Right.
We're going to poll our members. And we did a poll initially that didn't really fare well for Biden, and it was a straw poll in the union halls, 319 of them, where you would think it would be an 80% Biden because you can control that narrative. It was like 35% Biden, 30% Trump.
Yeah.
So we went, all right, we have a problem here. So we do further polling where we do QR codes to 1.3 million of our members in a magazine. We got a record turnout, and it was 65% Trump. And we're like, okay, now this is taking us into April, and we're still getting tremendous pressure. Meantime, we're bringing all the candidates in, every single one of them that was in the race, every single one of them. And one of the first ones we called, one of the first ones response to be there would be Trump.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to negotiate to get Biden in there. They're being very difficult. And he's a nice man. He really is a nice older gentleman.
Yeah.
And Marty was at the NHL Players Association at the time. He's trying to broker to get him in sooner than later. And then, by this time, we do one more poll and we use the Biden Harris pollster, and it still was exactly the same result as we did as our internal polling. So, we were getting tremendous pressure, but the one thing that was important to us is our members spoke.
Yes.
And the majority of them spoke, and then we get criticized. Well, the majority spoke. Why don't you endorse Trump? We're getting that from the Republicans. We're like, because we got 35% of our members that are either Democrats or independents. We've got to respect their opinions as well.
Right.
And let's figure out how we navigate through this when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
As an aside, this isn't like the biggest thing in the world, but it absolutely makes me furious when Democratic leaders are difficult to work with.
Yeah.
Like the Teamsters are asking you to come speak, like 2 phone calls. It should not take couple of text messages. That kind of story is so infuriating to me. If you cannot have adequate services for the people who have put you in the chair,
right,
then you deserve to lose. You deserve to not get the endorsement. I mean, it's just
how do we
change? Makes me crazy.
How do we change the culture of the Democratic Party?
People. It's the people. I think it's the people.
Is it the people that are in office that have been there too long and are out of touch?
It's that.
I think that helps.
I think it's that. I think it's staff. I think it's leadership. I think it's the consultant class. One of the things that we talked a lot about post the election, pre-election, post-election, was that there just needs to be a reckoning. That there just needs to be, in my humble opinion, just when you drive the car into the ditch and then you're writing a report about how you drove the car into the ditch, and the headline in the New York Times is, "We are not going to talk about what happened on the campaign. We're going to leave that part out. And we're not going to talk about the things that people have honest to God questions on. Like the trans ads, we're just going to leave all of that out. Immigration, we're just going to leave all of that out. We have a real problem with being honest. And what Democrats love to do is just pretend, just like look away. Democrats love to look away.
Hopefully it's going to go away.
And it'll go away.
Fix itself.
Yeah.
Right? Like immigration is a perfect example. We're just gonna not even talk about it. We're just gonna pretend it's not an issue when the other side talks about it nonstop, 24/7.
The other side talked about it 24/7 through that whole campaign. And I wasn't really buying into it.
Sure.
You know, but then you start looking at what the platform was under every single president
Yep.
since 1992. They wanted to, you know, have an immigration policy that worked. If you looked at Hillary Clinton's
Yep.
campaign rhetoric, and there's a nice thing on YouTube, I think it was 2007, where she basically says, we're getting rid of these illegal immigrants that commit crime and do all this other stuff. Barack Obama, I think, they even said he has deported more people as a president than anybody else.
Yep.
And then you have Trump come in, and he's running on the platform, you know, we need to close these borders, you know, get rid of these, you know, criminals that are here illegally, stop drug trafficking, stop human trafficking. I mean, shouldn't that have been an issue we should all have been embracing?
Yeah, I think part of the problem with Trump though is it is style and it is rhetoric, right? Like there is such a like cruelty to how he talks about some things, and it's so sort of dehumanizing of people. I think that if you go back and you do like a side to side between what Hillary Clinton says about deportations and Barack Obama says about deportations, it is going to be at least a little bit much more humane.
But wouldn't that go to your point though, or that you made earlier? If Democrats are too smooth, people don't believe them. Right?
I think
if you come in, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, because I think, you know, sometimes people come in too hot, but you know, when you come in and you make bold moves, sometimes you gain a little bit more credibility as a result of you're doing what you said you were going to do.
Well,
instead of trying to massage the issue.
I mean, whether or not I agree with Twigg.
I think Barack Obama is smooth though, and that's why it works, right? Like like that is who that dude is, and you believe that that's who that dude is when the cameras are on or not. There's so many people in the Democratic Party like play acting Barack Obama.
Sure.
They're just like, remember when everyone started doing this after Bill Clinton was president, and then next thing you know, every elected official was doing his little weird hand thing. Like people are doing this imitation of Barack Obama. Whereas Trump is being Trump. I think that people are now so sophisticated because of how much content they consume, how much TV, how many podcasts, how much video content they consume, that you can tell when someone is acting and when they're not. And so many Democrats just like be whatever little person you are. And Barack Obama can get away with things that other elected officials can't. Same with Donald Trump. When you watch people play Donald Trump and try and have the bravado and try and have the crassness, right? But when you see people try, elected officials on like Republicans try and act like him, and you're just like, oh,
like DeSantis.
Why?
Remember the DeSantis?
Oh my
Trump
God, with his little
impersonation?
boots. But like, it doesn't work because that's not believable. It doesn't even, you don't look comfortable doing that. That doesn't look like a real thing.
Well, then you get into the debate too of, you know, career politicians versus, you know, people that never aspired to be politicians, but they don't like the direction of the country. Are we better off with career politicians or business people or academia or whoever it may be?
I mean, I think that all those answers, I mean, yes, ideally we have there's over 500,000 elected officials in the United States, right? We're going to need some of them to know what they're doing.
What do you think the biggest?
We're going to need some of them to have done this before.
If there's 500,000 elected officials, right? How many actually suffer from a major pandemic in this country? It's called diabetes.
I think the vast majority of them are like trying their best. The vast majority are doing the same thing that the rest of us are doing, which is like
I'm just trying to be funny, but
yeah.
You know, the credibility is a huge determining factor in anything we do in life. My thing is, I'm a person that, you know, tries to be, you know, strategic and, you know, deliver a message with as much humbleness as possible. But at times, you have to deliver messages and make bold moves.
I agree.
Yeah.
And you have to be direct.
Pop out.
You have to be
call
direct.
that a
Yeah.
pop out.
We call it big swings.
I mean, I tell people
I
all the
agree.
time.
My problem is I call balls and strikes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say things so direct that people get offended, but it's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't have time right now. And that's the other challenge, right? Where we are, I think our democracy, not to be hyperbolic, I think we're in dire straits, right? And especially as a Democrat, seeing, you know, all of the progress that Democrats have made over the course of, I would say, 40 years have just fundamentally been dismantled over the course of the past year or 6 months.
But they've been
Right.
dismantled by, you know, to your point, the administration, but weren't we dismantling ourselves all along the way?
100%.
Yeah.
As we just discussed with labor, a lot of this is self-inflicted
None of
wounds.
it's new.
A lot of this is just bad politics and bad organizing and bad leadership. I mean, we could talk about the women's health debate. I mean, so much of this, Republicans and the right told us what they were going to do. They told us what their strategy was, and people did not want to pay attention to it. And I think that right now, what we need is just more. We need, to your point, bigger swings.
I mean, I like the fact, like when we negotiate big deals, and you know, in my day job, you know, we get to negotiate. We have a great team. Fred Zuckerman and myself negotiated the UPS deal, and why we were so successful there, and not that it plays into success in politics. Why we were successful there is, number one, we went out and talked to the people that were affected the most.
Yeah.
Or could be affected the most by a good deal or a bad deal. That's the rank and file members. Secondly, we stated our intentions the entire time
Yes.
on
Yeah.
what we were going to achieve.
Yes.
And when you state your intentions, your opponent, whether it's a political opponent or a corporate opponent, knows where you're coming from. They know how
Yep.
passionate you are.
Yes.
And I agree with that strategy. I think everybody should put their cards on the table
Yeah.
and figure it out. And if by playing this cat and mouse game of, I don't know if I support this,
Exactly.
but, you know, I don't know if this can, you get zero
You get zero.
credibility.
Yeah. And
get
I
zero.
think that that's actually one of the challenges, talking about like a cultural attitude of the Democratic Party. It's one of the things that allows for a big tent is to be like, we consider a lot of outcomes as valid.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes that type of progress really, really difficult because there's no tip of the spear.
Right.
There's no one saying like, this is our endpoint. And until we can get to that place, until we can organize this big tent, people are Democrats for a lot of different reasons. And they're animated into the party for a lot of different reasons, whether it's climate, whether it's union stuff, whether it's woman stuff, whether it's race stuff, all sorts of different reasons. And it's been difficult, and our leadership has been really resistant to try and get people to have the same bottom line. And that, I think, is a real challenge because, to your point, Donald Trump has so many wins on the board. It is unbelievable. Like, we are watching a revolution unfold. It's just not one I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
Right.
But he has gotten so many points on the board, and you cannot take that away from him. And Democrats, I think, have failed. And this is one of those things that I think you can really see the contrast between Barack Obama and President Obama and President Biden. Whereas President Obama, I think both by nature, but also like by theory, was really open to having his mind changed, having his ideas evolve, being moderate, being incremental,
Yeah.
getting what was practical. He's such a practical, like pragmatic person, and he governed that way. And I think that President Biden, I know this both from speaking to him and just watching, he and I were very close during the Obama years because I did labor. And like, so I'd always have to go to the vice president and be like, hey, will you do this for me? Because I can't get this on the president's schedule. But I think that you really saw in the amount that Joe Biden was able to get done in 4 years, a lesson learned from what happens if you do not push aggressively. Right?
So do you think Joe Biden, I mean, the intel that we got was that, you know, and I think it was echoed during his campaign that he was only going to be a transitional president. He wasn't going to run a second term. And we got some inside information that 2 years into his term, because he passed some good legislation, that, you know, he was approached, I would assume, by his inner circle to say, hey, now's the time to announce that you're going to be a transitional president. that it's going to give us the ability to vet out a legitimate Democratic candidate
Yep.
that could actually take on Trump. Now's the time. And our intel was telling us that, and again, this is secondhand information, but it makes sense that people were trying to get him not to run, and that, his wife was very influential in him staying in the race. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But do you think it was a mistake for him to run for a second term?
Yes, without any hesitation, without a doubt.
Did you hear the same thing? I mean, you're a DC person.
Yeah.
Heard the same thing. I'd actually had a conversation with him. So I was about to leave the White House. My big dirty secret is I actually didn't like working at the White House. And so I was about to leave, and the vice president actually asked me to stay. And this is before Beau had died, asked me to stay and move over to his office and take a job in his office. And I would have been his political director had he run for president in 2016.
Right.
When Beau died and he announced that he wasn't going to run, I left the White House entirely, left DC. And so he and I had actually had this conversation many, 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 many times. We were talking about like who he wanted to be vice president. We were talking about like what a presidency would look like, where he was with varying groups and how to shore that up. And it was part of the discussion then in 2016 that he would be a one-term president.
Yeah.
So the idea that he would then 8 years later, 4 or 5 years later, not be run again was like shocking. I was convinced that he wouldn't run again.
But look, I wasn't close to him as you were, but I remember meeting him while he was the vice president at the White House. And he had a fastball. I mean, he had a fastball.
He
was driving all of us
and
crazy.
I'm talking like 2000, probably was it 10 maybe?
Yeah.
11? No, it was probably 2012.
Oh, very on it.
Had a fastball.
He was the best. He was one of, we had to line up these events and these speakers. And when you lined up the vice president, he crushed it. He was great. But he changed.
Right. So, you get old,
Yeah,
right?
you get old.
But I remember meeting him. And I met him at our convention backstage, but I met him at the White House as well. And the guy he had a fastball. He was quick-witted.
Yeah.
He was hip. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see him run again, I remember just looking at him saying, "There's no way this guy's going to last." I remember even saying like he's not going to last through the term. But then I'd see him at events and. I was backstage at a couple events with him, one in Ohio when he did something with the temperature bill or the farm workers or something. And the guy is on, like he was quick, but when he was scripted, he was awful. He looked awful. I remember being backstage and he's on a teleprompter and, he gets off script and that's where he looks kind of dazed and confused. But the one thing that, and I say this all the time, I felt awful for him at that debate. He should have never, ever been put in that position.
I agree.
And as someone that my dad died on the job 51 years, and I remember saying, to my mother, like, I don't want to, we got to talk to him about retiring, and she's like, oh, he'll retire when he wants to, and it's like he wasn't failing, but he died in the job, and I'm saying to myself, maybe if we actually pushed a little harder, we would have got a couple more years out of him. Do you think there's any guilt on his family? I mean, Hunter Biden came out blaming everybody yesterday for everything that went wrong, except for taking any ownership of anything. Like, do you think there's some regrets right now?
I think there's a lot of regrets. I think the two things I'll say is that, number one, COVID played such a huge part in all of this because Joe Biden was able to run a campaign from his basement, essentially. Didn't have to hit the road. Because I think, to your point, he was already aging. He's already an old guy during that first election. And in many ways, we were sort of training all of these operatives and these leaders and these young kids that we're talking about that were working on the campaign at the White House, that the Biden win can be replicated. This idea that, well, you don't need to have him on the road, right? He's an old person. It's okay. We can hide him away from the press.
Right.
We can hide him away from this because when you win an election with the most votes in American history, because people are voting by mail, it's a COVID election emergency.
There's nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do. There's literally nothing else to do.
You can only day drink so much.
Yeah.
Exactly. It taught us bad lessons, right? That election was so unique and so different. That was number one. Number two, the midterms. Everyone was predicting this red wave. The red wave did not come. And I think when that happened, what ends up happening is, as Carri said, opportunistic people who want to retain power, people who want to stay at the White House, are all telling Joe Biden, you got to run again.
You're the greatest.
You're the greatest.
Because you know what? I need my job. And
Exactly. Because I don't want to leave this job.
Right.
And the White House does have a distorting effect.
Yeah.
I mean, it is such a distorting place. Everyone takes your phone call. Everyone knows. Everyone's telling you you're the pride of your hometown.
100%.
Parents have never been prouder of you. Like all of this stuff, everyone's reflecting back that you are king of the hill, or you are so brilliant, or you're so smart.
We say
tricky.
We always say you start inhaling your own fumes.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
They're getting high off their own supply, and no one wants to leave. And so when you are fundamentally saying, all right, Biden's out, we're going to open it up to the primary process, or we're going to pick hand the reins over to Kamala, whatever that conversation was, the people around him were just delaying that conversation.
And I would, sorry, babe.
No, go. No.
I would add for his
Did you just call him babe?
Oh, yeah, that's my babe. That's my babe.
Really?
Yeah. I'll call you babe. I'll call anybody babe.
Uh-oh. Christine's gonna
no disrespect. I'm very respectful of marriages.
I'm kidding. By the way, are you married?
I'm not. Notoriously,
Carrie's
unmarried.
very single, just so the
I don't know that the
cameras.
very needed to be added.
Sorry.
Wow.
I don't know. Anyway, coming back to TC. Anyway, also Joe Biden used to say this all the time, and it's something that his father told him, which is that if you don't have a plan when you retire, you'll be dead in a year. And you think about this guy who had been a senator since he was 30 years old.
30, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So this is his life. This has been the animating force of his entire life. He doesn't know how to do anything else. I'm sure he drove everybody at the Biden Library just absolutely nuts. Like people at Penn must have been like, get this guy out of here. Like the pace.
Bring in a bingo.
Right? Like the pace. And I had my own experience. You leave the White House and it feels like the rest of the world is going in slow motion.
Right.
Because you're just operating at such a level, at such a speed that the rest of the world you feel like you're in molasses and it just slows you down. So I also think that was a layer of just like, this is all Joe Biden knows how to do. This is all he loves to do. This is something that he is
all he knows.
Incredibly good at. And it's really hard for the family right? Your mother's telling your father, probably making the same calculation about your father. I'm just like, that's
if he stops moving, he's gonna die, right?
I think that's right.
So I think that's everybody's fear when they get to a certain age. I mean, I know I go 20 hours a day and I love it. I love chaos. I love the adrenaline. I love the rush. Now, if I just suddenly stop tomorrow,
like that,
like
it's tough.
It's hard. It's hard to shut it off.
But it was the worst decision. It's such a sad thing because I do think Joe Biden has had an incredible career in public service, an incredible vice president to Obama, an incredible and very substantive, monumental 4 years as president. But he will be now remembered for the hubris of trying to run again. And
yeah, I mean, his legacy,
this election over to Donald Trump.
Legacy, is going to be one of a failed debate.
Yes,
right. Should have never ran.
Yeah.
Because people don't remember the good you've done, unfortunately, in life. They always focus on the negative. And, unfortunately, hopefully he enjoys, what time he has left and he enjoys his family. But, moving forward, when do you think Democrats will be back in power if anytime soon? Because I talked to someone recently and pretty astute at politics, said that they don't see a Democratic president for the next 3 terms.
3 terms? Christ.
Counting this term, I guess.
Yeah. I think that may be a little pessimistic. That said,
and who is a rising star in the Democratic Party? Is it AOC?
Brad, this is a big fight that Brad and I have because I think that there's so many options, and Brad's like, there's nobody. Only AOC.
I might tend to agree with you that
I don't think
that the pool is shallow.
I don't think the bench is as deep as we keep saying it is. I don't. I mean, look, I think there are a lot of incredible governors, incredible senators, incredible members of Congress, but we are now living, there's like before time and after time. I feel it's like before Trump and after Trump. And I feel like there's a battle within the Democratic Party of, we just need to go back to the way things were, right? I think something is fundamentally broken. And I think that we have to start playing the game with, it's almost like playing sports. It's like we're trying to play football and there are all these new rules and we're trying to still play football like the old way, right?
Right.
And the candidates that keep getting brought up by MSNBC pundits are the old school candidates. And I don't think that they have the ability or firepower to operate and play against Trump on his playbook.
Like, is Josh Shapiro on that list?
No, I don't. I think Josh Shapiro, I love Josh Shapiro.
According to you, so
according
Josh
to me,
Shapiro, what do you think?
I think Josh Shapiro, speaking of people who impersonate Barack Obama, that dude impersonates Barack Obama every time he speaks.
He does.
You know what I mean? Like, I just don't
does.
think that that's going to break through in this.
What do you
day
think
and
about
age.
Josh Shapiro?
I like Josh Shapiro. I think that he's done a really good job. I think a couple things. I think that one, we are alive at a time of such the situation, the climate changes on a dime, right? So who knows what the world's going to feel like in a year? So we don't even know what's going to happen from the midterms yet. I think whoever
the midterms are going to be very interesting this time,
right?
around.
Huge.
I think to your point, whoever drops in, I've said this so many times on our pod, like whoever drops into the reality of what is actually happening and quits trying to be like, let's go back to campaigning the way it used to be, thinking the way it used to be, thinking that we're ever going to go back or get back to how it used to be. Whoever is the fastest to drop that delusion and behave in the way that the moment demands is going to see the most success.
You mean like Trump when he ran, he did 44 podcasts.
100%.
Right? And Harris did 4.
100%.
Right? And think about the audience that we try and capture on our respective podcasts.
100%.
We're trying to capture the 18 to 35-year-olds who are actually going to be pretty influential 10 years down the road in this country, right? So, that's a tremendous point you just made there as far as like, we can't look, I mean, when I was running, I used to say this, it's like, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. I mean, it's definition of insanity, right? Gretchen.
I love Gretchen. That Oval Office.
And she did a good job on behalf of her state, mitigating the damage or mitigating any potential repercussions. She went right away and met with Trump. Took a lot of criticism for it.
She did.
Yeah.
But her state's not suffering as a result of any cutting in funding and anything else. So, that's like kind of a little bit of hope, saying, all right, here's someone who gets it. Here's someone who has their state in their best interest and is going to go meet with the Republican president to, mitigate potential damage to her state. Not kiss the ring and fall in line, but have conversations. Say, hey, we can agree on this. We can disagree with this. Listen, I talk to Trump probably once every 2 weeks. And it's over issues affecting, our membership and whatever. And there's certain times I'll say to him, I don't agree with this. And he's like, well, I don't agree with you. But, and you don't end the conversation right then and there. What do you think about Gretchen?
I like Big Gretch. I think I had like
as a matter of fact, she told me to call her Big Gretch.
I mean, that's how you know.
I said, Madam Governor.
Call me Big Gretch.
She's like, no, call me Big Gretch.
That's how you know, though.
I might call me Big Sean.
At the, I wish you spoke at the convention, because I feel like the convention is kind of the Super Bowl for political nerds, right? Because you get to actually see up close and personal. It's like the true test, right? Can you command a national stage? Can you get people to believe in what the hell you're saying? The people, in my opinion, who were the best at that week was Big Gretch and Elizabeth Warren, surprisingly. Elizabeth Warren, who no one brings up. And I know, she's obviously too old to run for president these days, but authentically themselves.
But think about Elizabeth Warren, though, right? And she's from my
you're a
home state of
Massachusetts man.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, and when we were lobbying to get Laurie Chavez DeRemer confirmed or nominated, then confirmed, she was the best choice. Her father's a retired Teamster. She voted for the PRO Act. She's a Republican. And I sat on many boards or joint labor events where, I was sitting with the people that were salivating that Trump would win, that want to be the Secretary of Labor.
Sure.
And two of them were out of union busting law firms that we deal with all the time. And, being in a position where, we were viewed upon as influential in this election, when we went to the Trump administration lobbying for her, and we got her, and she's done well by us. I mean, there's always going to be criticism from other labor unions, but and everybody. I remember calling the Senate, the Democratic senators saying, hey, this is going to be good for labor. I can't vote for it because it's a Trump appointee. Well, he is the president, and it's better than the field. And I'd explain to people how bad the field was and would have been. And, you get a guy like Schiff who Trump hates. And when I talked to Schiff on the phone, I said, look, this is the best choice. Her father is a retired Teamster. I met him. She supported the PRO Act. He's like, I'm probably going to fall out of favor, but if you tell me this is what's good for working people, I'll vote for it. So I was optimistic with some of those people.
Right.
But then just to draw a line in the sand, no, it's a Trump nominee. Well, he's in power for the next 4 years. Why can't we change our mentality and say, hey, we'll support this person?
Yeah.
That's where kind of,
yep.
I get confused, or maybe not even confused, but I just get, like, all right, we're here for 4 years, good or bad. We've got to figure out a way to navigate through this.
Exactly.
And you don't stop working. You don't stop fighting for your members.
Right.
Like that work continues each and every day.
But she didn't vote for her.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my point. It was
Yeah.
a long way to make a point.
Yeah. But I mean,
Is AOC the answer? Because I don't get along with her at all. And I know she doesn't resonate with our members. Well, not all of our members, but, there's some criticism there because, there's the stereotype that she's the next Bernie Sanders.
How is she on labor issues though, AOC?
Well, I mean, she's another one, right? So when I spoke at the RNC, she said the Teamsters deserve a better leader. Why do the Teamsters deserve a better leader? Like because I spoke at the RNC or we didn't endorse Kamala Harris?
Right.
She's not looking at the 80,000 members that we have organized in 3 years. She's not looking at the record contract, $30 billion contract that we got at UPS, and we continue to get throughout all these industries.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to be judged because I have a disagreement politically with you. We want to be judged about the work we're doing on behalf of our constituents. So for her to come out and make a public statement like that, I mean, I'm going to make a public statement and attack her and point out her deficiencies in her own district where we have a ton of members in there.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think she's the answer. I mean, look, social issues are extremely important. I've witnessed them my whole life growing up in Boston, but this election proved that, those aren't the issues that are going to, win elections. The issues that are going to win elections are, I think, and maybe I'm naive, but I think working people and their issues are relevant and very influential on how an election is going to be won.
I think it will be very tough sledding for AOC this cycle. I hope one day she is president. I can't imagine a scenario in which she is president.
I hope I'm retired, Twigg.
Twigg, I actually hope I'm retired.
I can't imagine a scenario in which she would be president in 3 years. I just don't. I mean,
I think the question is, does she run? I don't know.
I wouldn't if I were her, or I would advise her not to.
Yeah.
Because I think she's got a long career, but I think she has a long career. I think whoever is president next is going to have an extraordinarily difficult time figuring out how literally how the government works, post-Doge, post all the things that have happened.
Yeah, big, beautiful bill.
The big, beautiful, I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult. And you want to have someone with a slightly flatter learning curve.
But does that person that's running, opposing the Republican Party, does that person focus on what was done under the Trump administration, or should they run on a platform of, what they're looking to fix, what they're looking to achieve? Because there's nothing worse than, dealing, and I get sick of just listening to all the negative shit. Like, hey, it is what it is. It happened. Or whether you agree or you don't, we're here for 4 years. Figure it out. Like, does that Democratic Party just focus like they're doing right now on everything that this president's doing and this administration is bad, which not everything is.
Yeah.
Right? Or do they say, all right, let's wake up figure out what actually Americans want
Yeah.
and need, more importantly.
You know, my guy, Andy Kim, Senator, U.S. Senator in Jersey, we've been friends for years.
I just saw, he questioned me yesterday on I was in front of a panel for
Oh, get out of here.
FM.
He's a really good guy, but one point he made, which I thought was so smart, was in previous administrations, when you have a bill that you know is likely going to pass, like this big, beautiful bill where Republicans have the numbers, they're going to decimate all of these vital services and programs for so many people. It's not enough just to say that's bad. Why didn't Democrats propose their version of the bill and say, this is the aspirational version?
Because
of
I think at this point in time, people like to weaponize actual issues.
Yeah.
They want to put legislation together that they know is never going to pass,
Right.
so that they can point a finger and say, see, the Republicans are bad over here, or the Democrats are bad over here.
That's right.
Let's work together.
Yep.
I mean, I'm working together right now with Senator Hawley, Senator Booker,
Yep.
on the Fair Labor Standards Contract, which is a version of the PRO Act that is something that could be attainable, and it has credibility because we've got people working together, having conversations, and not, weighing it down with minutia that's never ever going to get in that bill.
Right.
Let's figure out what is needed and get it done. So, I mean, I'm still hopefully optimistic that whoever's in power,
Yeah.
that we should all be working together.
Yeah. I
I
agree.
mean,
There isn't one right or wrong agenda.
yeah.
Right. But I do think that, to Brad's point, and really to yours as well, no one knows what a Democrat's agenda is, right? And so there's a messaging failure that is happening, both in terms of big ideas, but then also getting out what is happening.
That's why
right?
I'm asking you, like,
Yeah.
what is the platform, I guess, so to speak, in 2028 for someone that wants to run for the president of the United States? What
They
is the
have to do
Democratic
both.
platform?
I mean, sadly, they have to do both, because so much of what the next Democratic president has to do is repair all of these programs that have just been decimated. So there has to be a recognition, speaking of these Medicaid cuts, a lot of them are not going to be starting to be implemented till after the midterms, right? So there's going to be a lot of conversations around all of these cuts, rural hospitals, right? My sister-in-law, my brother-in-law are doctors. Just spent the week with them, and they talked about the catastrophic cuts that are going to happen in rural America. There are so few rural hospitals, and what it's going to mean for Medicaid patients there. The next Democratic presidential candidate has to explain what the fuck just happened, and
what's the solution?
and
to
the
problem?
Republicans, exactly. The Republicans just did this, and these are the solutions. So there's a lot of, like, you mentioned I love your metaphor with the pensions, right? It's like if you break someone's windshield, your mom's windshield, and then say, I fixed the windshield. Well, you broke it, right?
So, Twig, the biggest thing during the Biden courtship of trying to get us to endorse early was guys like Chuck Schumer saying, "We fixed your pensions." He pointed his finger in my face one time. And for people that don't know, that Biden did fix pensions.
Yeah.
He definitely did. He signed that bill that, funded all these pensions. But they never explained what the true root problem of why these pensions were in such critical status and declining status was, because in 1980, when they passed deregulation,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
which was introduced by Ted Kennedy, Democrat from Mass, signed off by Senator Joe Biden and many other bipartisan bill, that was a demise of the trucking industry. The Teamsters lost 400,000 jobs, meaning that 400,000 contributions per person going into these pension funds. A lot of companies went bankruptcy,
Yeah.
went into bankruptcy, and we haven't even addressed bankruptcy reform in 40 years, where pension funds are the last line in creditors after the big fat cats, these white collar crime syndicates, as corporate America take all their bonuses. We're the last line in creditors. So they finally fixed the pensions, which was started by a problem that was created in 1980.
Yeah.
So I said, it's like me, and I explain this all the time. I break my mother's window in 1980 playing street hockey in my neighborhood. She asked me for 40 years to fix it. It's a draft.
Yeah.
We need this window fixed. 40 years later, I decide to fix it, and I'm looking for accolades to a problem that I created that I eventually fixed 40 years later. So, I mean, you know, that's kind of the, people want to remind you of what they've done for you, but they don't want to admit to the problem that was created as a result of their actions.
Right.
But more importantly, I don't necessarily focus on what people have done for me. I mean, I'm a very loyal person, and I always recognize, hey,
People have been great to me. I appreciate it. But what can I do moving forward to not hold on to something I did in the past? Let's figure out what needs to be done in the future.
And to be perfectly honest, this is one of those things that I was sort of alluding to earlier where in my era in the White House, I often did not consider presidents of labor unions doing enough to hold people in public office, as well as educate the public around what had happened to them and why they were asking for the things that they were asking for.
Yeah.
And that's not to like talk shit about your predecessor or anybody in particular.
No, I can talk shit about my predecessor. I certainly can. That's the reason why I'm here.
You know what I mean? But it's just sort of like, why would you even have to say that?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have ever had to say that. And I think that this example, the example of this podcast, and granted, it wasn't always easy. It wasn't as easy as it is right now to widely distribute information and to have a show and to hold people's attention, give them context and have them listen to you for 2 hours. I understand all of that. And there's such poor public awareness and education around what a union is, why it matters.
Yeah.
I mean, this would even happen. I'd go.
Yeah, we definitely did not do a good job of showcasing who we are and what we provide and what we've actually done in this country. But not to cut you short, because I've got ADHD and I'll probably forget this, but we will recognize for the first time in decades upon decades how important and valuable we were during the pandemic.
Yep.
Of course.
I mean, we were providing goods and services, the Teamsters Union. I mean, you think about it. We pick up your trash. We stock your shelves. We deliver your food. We deliver your packages. We do everything. We're your nurses in hospitals, right? And we were deemed essential because we were providing all these goods and services. And I think the general public recognized how valuable we were. Unfortunately, we don't do a good enough job of highlighting continuously on how valuable we are. And
exactly.
And the problem is when we do that, or I do that in this forum, we're getting attacked saying egotistical union bosses trying to, get their own personalities out there. There's nothing egotistical about what we're doing. We're trying to get our message out there, but we're also showcasing how valuable we are, not just in the workplace, but also in the communities.
Yeah.
And, the podcasts are great. Social media is awesome.
Yeah.
But it's also a platform for people to take easy shots at you and to criticize everything you're doing.
Yeah, never read the comments. But also, but part of that too, I think, is because of all of these things, people's attention spans and people's memory has never been shorter.
Yeah.
So one of the problems you said earlier, it's like President Trump went on 40 podcasts and Kamala went on 3 or whatever. It's like, not only did he go on 40, he's been on every single show. He's been out there every single day in the 4 years. He's been campaigning 365 year after year after year. And we continue to be like, okay, so like July, August, maybe after August, September to November, we'll start telling people who we are and what we're doing.
Late.
And it's too late.
Well, I mean, in the union election world, when we won our election in November of 2021, we don't take office till March 22. I had a meeting with my team and I'm like, we start campaigning tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
And every single day after that.
Full time.
Yes.
We interviewed, we had Governor Walz on our podcast a couple months ago.
Do you know what he called me? He called me. Well, he didn't call me out by name. He was giving a speech and he says, and these so-called courageous union leaders who won't endorse. I'm like, dude, you look like a creepy high school wrestling coach or a creepy high school swim teacher that hangs around the locker room,
Oh my God. Having had to ask more than one labor president to please vacate the pool in Orlando, that's a function of our Democratic leadership from time to time.
Oh yeah.
There's anyway, let me not go into that story. But
you were saying Waltz was on your podcast?
Coach was on the podcast, and I love Coach. Anyone who's giving kids free lunches in schools will have my enduring loyalty. But we were trying to explain to him that Donald Trump had gone on all of these podcasts and had spent time doing live streams and so on and so forth. And we were like, he was on Joe Rogan for like 4 hours. And he was like, doesn't he have any work to do? And Brad looks him dead in the eye and was like, that is the work. And it's like,
Joe Rogan has 22 million.
You know what I'm saying?
that
And
view.
there's just this disconnect.
And by the way, Joe Rogan's not
big left right person. I
No.
mean, he calls balls and strikes.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a Bernie guy for I don't know how many years. Yeah, I completely agree.
But it's just this like
Disconnect.
persistent disconnect.
Yeah.
But don't you think that's reflective of the DNC though?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
mean, you know,
Oh, trust me.
it's like Tim Walz, like whether I like him or I don't like him, he hasn't missed a free lunch either. But
No body shaming.
Yeah.
Bad ideas.
That's a better bad idea. Let's stop body shaming people, right? But you know, it's just that should be a function. Tim Walz is not a career politician. He was a school teacher, right? And when you're in the realm of running for a federal number 2 spot or number 1 spot, your team should be looking at every
agreed.
opportunity, every opportunity to take advantage of. And I tell people this all the time. I go on podcasts, I go on news shows that are not popular or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I'll say, look, I'll take any opportunity to talk about the Teamsters Union and tell them what our platform is for working people, whether they like us or they don't like us. And I think to your point earlier, you know, some people, and I think a lot of people, avoid the tough conversations, the tough situations, but that's clearly a miscalculation if people aren't taking advantage of that.
If you're an elected official, I mean, people will be like, hey, can we come on your podcast for 30 minutes and we'll zoom in from the car? And it's like, no, you cannot. Like, A, you're not doing us a favor. Like, do you understand that? Like, you are not doing us a favor by appearing.
Right.
But B, it's like any elected official, you have to do call time. You have to raise money. You need to be doing podcast time every single week.
Yeah.
You are putting in 1 hour to 3 hours on. There is a podcast in your state, in your district about someone who is talking about the grocery store and like comparing the aisle organization. Why are you not on that podcast?
Yeah.
Every single, you should be talking to people every single week on these forums. And if you're not, you are completely misunderstanding the political climate of this moment and how you actually add the votes together and what what your constituents actually expect. If you only show up 30 days, 90 days out from an election, that is a transaction. That is not conversation. That is not constituent work. That is not governing. That's not a vision. Being a public servant.
It's not a vision.
That is not being a public servant. That is a transaction, and that's conducting a transaction. And so it's just sort of like you can see the difference. We disagree on Gavin. But Gavin is somebody who understands that in this moment, and you see that he is popping left, right, and center.
For sure.
Think about how often he's getting picked up.
But
how
here's a
much
guy.
he's getting conversation.
Here's a guy that you talk about opportunist, right?
Sure, but he's the one.
But here's a guy.
Pete too.
Here's a guy, right? Who's that?
Pete. Pete's doing
Mayor
every
Pete,
show,
yeah.
and he shows up in the conversation. He's top of mind. I don't know that he'll be president, but
you look at Gavin Newsom, right? He had a recall election. Labor came out in full force to keep him where he was at. We have bipartisan legislation that we put forth in California that is going to require human operated and autonomous commercial vehicles. Bipartisan supported overwhelmingly, and it gets to his desk and he vetoes it. So how my members want to vote for him when we could lose 250,000, 300,000 jobs?
Yeah.
Why did he veto it? Did he say?
It was paid for by big tech.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and you know, it's stuff like that, you know, we look at whether you like him or you don't. I might not like the guy personally, but if he's doing the right thing by our members, all right. We'll hold our nose. But you get a same situation in Colorado.
Yep.
Democratic governor. Same situation, have all this support bipartisan to require human operators in commercial vehicles. And I get him on the phone. I'm like, look, you need to be with us in this. We've always been with you. And he says, Sean, don't worry about it. It's a problem that's not going to happen for 10 or 15 years. Okay. But what do we do with those 250,000 truck drivers, the men and women who drive trucks, provide goods and services in your state? Where are they going to go to work?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about it's 10 years down the road. No, I worry about it.
Yeah.
Because that might be my kid. That might be someone's grandkid. And that's just a mentality. But, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Newsom's. I actually asked him to come on the podcast, but, you know, I think he wants me to go on his, but I'm not. He's got to come on this first.
I like that.
A little leverage, right?
I like that.
Yeah,
so tell us about, you know, your podcast. I mean, I've watched it. It's hilarious. I actually liked when her father called up and chastised you for cursing. Yeah.
And I've really done a good job of curbing my my cursing.
No, you just don't even notice.
So how did this start? How did your podcast start?
We just started Zooming because we were losing our minds during the election, and I felt like we were going to lose, and we're very much like, for our own mental health, I feel like we're codependent.
Yeah.
Because we were angry at all the mistakes of the Kamala campaign. Well, previous to the Kamala campaign, the Biden campaign, then the Kamala campaign. And it's a lot of what you're describing, which is just not taking any risk, not taking any big swings, not getting out there, not answering the tough questions, and not doing media effectively, not doing culture effectively. So we would just call each other and Zoom. And then we started recording.
And then you had a better bad idea.
Yeah, and then we were like, let's inflict this on the internet.
Let's put this out. And then, but it's been really fun because I think the feedback we're getting from people is we're not the only ones that feel this way. It's like, I think our pod is very kind of insidery, but what we've learned is that there are a lot of people who are not insiders who feel the exact same way.
Right.
Who are angry, who are frustrated.
Well, it's a great venue.
Yeah.
To get out, opinions that aren't scripted. I mean,
Yep.
you go on mainstream media now, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, and I've done a lot of interviews on those, and you're limited on
Yeah,
You can't say
exactly.
anything.
and you can't say anything.
You got like 3 minutes.
And it's
Yeah.
it's so quick, it's so fast, and the narrative is controlled exactly by the network
Yes.
and the subject. And I love this. I love this because I think
Your
it's a
pod
great
is great,
opportunity.
man. Well, wait, I got to
love
ask you a
yours
question.
too. I mean,
then.
I like the dynamic. I mean,
Who's your person then? If we're thinking about, because you're not a Republican or Democrat.
I'm a Democrat.
You are a Democrat.
I am
okay.
a Democrat, registered Democrat. Always have been my whole life.
Is there anyone that comes to mind?
In the
You mentioned
Democratic
Big
Party?
Gretch. Yeah, you mentioned Big Gretch.
I mean, I think Big Gretch. I'm not sure what her plans are.
Yeah.
But I kind of tend to agree with you. No disrespect, that the pool is pretty shallow.
Yeah.
I mean, does a guy like Fetterman run? No.
No.
Yeah, no, he's
I don't
not.
think he's
pretty banged
mentally
up.
fit. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
I think he's gone through some stuff.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, and this is an unqualified opinion, what the new DNC chair does, because he seems like he's struggling.
yeah.
Did you support Ken?
No.
Did you get involved at all?
I think we supported Faz Shakir.
Oh, get out of here.
yeah.
Love Faz.
Yeah, I had him on the
He's
show.
a good guy.
Yeah, he's a real good guy.
He went to Harvard, played baseball, and was my brother-in-law's college roommate.
Oh, in Harvard?
Very small world. Yeah.
No kidding, really?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What takes us in a slightly different direction? Do you think it would be possible for a Democratic Party and or nominee for president to win back the confidence of the majority of your members? And if so, what would they have to do?
Well, I think it's going to depend upon what happens over the next year or so. I think, if the Republicans do what they said they were going to do, is embrace working people, embrace their issues. And we know there's a lot of controversy with smaller government, people getting laid off, federal employees. There's all kinds of that rhetoric going around, or reality, actually, not even rhetoric, but that's negative on the administration. But conversely, if we get the Fair Labor Standards Contract Act passed, if we get some good decisions, which we have gotten some good decisions, and this NLRB is a disaster right now, it needs to be completely rebuilt. And we've been saying that for 25 years. It's just a tough, antiquated process to go through. And these are some of the discussions we've had with the administration. But I think if the Republicans do what they say and we pass some legislation like the Fair Labor Standards contracts, and they actually demonstrate they're going to do some good work on behalf of working people, I think it's going to be a tough boat to row for Democrats to come back in this next election. However, if none of this stuff passes and, workers start to get attacked and corporations start, holding all the cards again, because I think we're in a good spot with corporate America and exposing them for how dirty and how greedy they are. But if they start getting a leg up, I think that's when the Democrats have to refocus on who they have to serve. And it's not big business or big tech, it's the working men and women. So I would just say this. I think probably if we have this conversation in a year, it's going to be a little bit more clearer to what direction we go in.
That's how
And
I
that's
feel
that's an unqualified opinion. It's just what I see every day.
I think that's right.
And I think the same thing about who the potential nominees could be. It's just so far, and we're changing everything. It's so volatile right now that you just have being able to predict 3 years away, 2.5 years away is Fool's errand.
Well, I'm excited you have this pod because anyone who's even thinking about running should come on your podcast, man.
Oh, I love it.
It's
Yeah.
like
It's good
huge
stuff.
round of applause. It's such a great.
Well, what's
Such
the
a
name?
great
Well,
pod.
let's talk about your podcast. What's the name of it? Plug it for the audience.
Twigg and Jenkins.
Twigg and Jenkins. And when is
The-
it released? Weekly?
Height of creativity.
We
is our last names.
it's a weekly video pod on Spotify. I love Sean is so nice because we keep getting this feedback that we don't talk about our podcast at all.
Even
like
when
we-
we're on
Well, you
the
got to plug it. Let's
Even
plug
on
it.
the podcast, we
Even
don't
on
plug
the
it.
pod-
So
Someone was listening and was like, "Do you know you didn't even say like what the show is in the latest episode?" And we were like, "Oh, did we not?"
Well, that's because
Yeah.
you want them to come back for the next one.
Exactly.
You know, I think it's because we're legitimately such good friends, and that
Yeah.
the podcast is an extension of conversations that we've been having for a decade or more. And so we
forget to
I
actually.
kind of forget we're
yeah.
doing a thing.
So I try and
you know?
every time we do an episode, I always try and. Well, that was a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
I love that.
Now I'm doing it
Look
in
at
my
this nice
now I'm doing it like in my work life, and I'm like, oh, I got a bad idea. Let's do this. And I'm like, wait, we're not plugging the podcast.
It's just
today.
your slogan now.
Oh
all the
my
time.
God! It's well, you know where the slogan came from during COVID. You know, because everything was shut down, and
Yeah.
you know, people were having unhappy hour from 3 to 5
Oh,
every
hilarious.
I
yeah.
love
every day,
that.
right? So I'd be like, all right, I got a bad idea. Let's start on happy hour at like 2 o'clock today, as opposed to 3. And so every time we were in a situation, I'm like, all right. And my buddy actually would he'd take credit for the slogan, be like, I got a bad idea. And so when we
So
were
fun.
trying to
love it.
develop a name for it, we're like, what about a bad ideas?
It's perfect, man.
You know, and it's kind of stuck. But I truly appreciate you coming on the show.
We really
So
appreciate
fun.
it.
I hope we can collaborate and work, and I hope
We
Yeah.
got to do it.
I would love to have you on as recurring guests.
We would
Love
love to
that.
come on. We would
Because
love to get into
We're
it.
all neighbors now, right?
We're
Exactly.
neighbors, and keep doing what you're doing, man. We're really it's exciting to see someone willing to actually have the hard conversation.
Well, I appreciate that. So let's hear where we can see the podcast.
Twigg and Jenkins is on all the things: Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Instagram. Follow Carri Twigg. Her Instagram handle is at Carri Twigg. She just moved to DC and she is single, men.
Single and ready to mingle.
Single
in the street.
Exactly. Just slide in those DMs. Just get in there.
Oh God.
You know, maybe we'll do another show just about her dating scene.
Oh,
my
yes,
God.
exactly.
Oh my God.
We can have like callers, you know, it'd be
Yeah,
great.
sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
live
sounds
calling.
awesome.
Live calling.
Live callers.
It'd be like
callers.
Tinder on steroids.
Oh, no.
You know what
Great.
I mean?
You guys can vet people for me.
Oh,
great.
absolutely.
I'm
Ask
in.
the tough questions of the bros.
Yeah.
It'd be good. It'd be good. Well, listen, I thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your
Thanks so
busy
much,
day, and I
Sean.
look forward to collaborating moving forward. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Sean.
Sean.